courtroom was packed with spectators, eager to see the woman who had been dubbed the Devil's Wife by the media. The trial was the talk of the town, with every detail dissected and analyzed by those following the case. The prosecution laid out their case with meticulous precision, painting Elizabeth as a manipulative woman who had lured Father Bennett into her web to achieve her own twisted goals. They argued that the voices she claimed to hear were nothing more than a convenient excuse to justify her heinous actions. Elizabeth's defense team, however, took a different approach. They attempted to plead insanity, citing her delusions and the voices she said had driven her to kill. They presented medical experts who testified that Elizabeth had a history of mental illness, suggesting that she was not in control of her actions when she committed the crime. They described her as a deeply troubled woman who had been pushed over the edge by her inability to have children and her belief that she was carrying a divine child. The turning point in the trial came when Father Bennett was called to the stand as a key witness. The courtroom fell silent as he took his place, the weight of his guilt visible in his downcast eyes. His testimony was crucial, and everyone knew it then. It recounted the events leading up to the murder, detailing how Elizabeth had seduced him and how he had been manipulated into believing that he was fulfilling God's will. He spoke of the overwhelming guilt that had led him to confess his sins to the police, hoping to prevent further tragedy. His words left a lasting impact on the jury. They saw in him a man who had been deeply flawed, yet ultimately remorseful. The prosecution used his testimony to reinforce their argument that Elizabeth had planned the murder with cold calculation, using her influence over the priest to achieve her goals. The defense, however, argued that Bennett's testimony only proved how unhinged Elizabeth had become, driven mad by her delusions. As the trial dragged on, the townspeople of Willow Creek were torn between horror and disbelief. The details that emerged in court were shocking. Ritualistic killings, twisted religious beliefs, and the downfall of a once respected priest. The case had all the elements of a dark tale that would be whispered about for years to come. Finally, on November 15th, 2008, the jury returned with their verdict. Elizabeth Harper was found guilty of first-degree murder. The judge sentenced her to life in prison without the possibility of parole.